Today, we're jumping into an absolutely incredible story. How the simple act of planting a tree could grow into a full-blown political revolution, take on a dictator, and, in the end, completely redefine what peace even means. It sounds a little crazy, right? But that is exactly what happened back in 2004. So, the big question for this explainer is, what did the Nobel Committee see in a simple tree that pretty much everyone else had missed? Well, the answer is an amazing lesson in power, politics, and the environment.
Okay, so to really get this revolution, you first have to meet the revolutionary. And Wangari Maathai, well, she wasn't just an activist. She was a brilliant, highly credentialed scientist who came back home only to find her country in the middle of an ecological collapse.
I mean, just look at this journey. It was truly remarkable. At a time when opportunities for Kenyan women were incredibly rare, she's out there earning advanced degrees in the US and becoming a total pioneer in academia back home. And this wasn't just about her own success. That scientific credibility gave her this immense authority later on when she started challenging the government's policies. And this is what she returned home to, a nation in serious trouble. The Kenya of the 1970s was just being ravaged by deforestation. And this wasn't just about losing pretty landscapes, it meant real, day-to-day hardship, especially for women, who had to walk farther and farther for basic things like firewood and clean water. That connection between a dying environment and human suffering, that's what became her call to action.
So, faced with this massive crisis, Maathai came up with a solution that was just as elegant as it was powerful. You see, she didn't just see a problem of missing trees. She saw a deeper problem, a problem of missing stability. And her solution was this powerful metaphor that would literally become the engine for her entire movement.
She called it the three-legged stool. And it's such a simple, brilliant concept drawn right from traditional African culture. Think about it. A stool with 3 legs, it's only stable if all 3 are strong and equal. You take one away, or you even shorten one, and the whole thing just topples over. Maathai argued that a nation, it's exactly the same. And here they are, the 3 legs. First, a healthy environment with resources that are managed sustainably. Second, good governance. Democracy, the rule of law. And third, a culture of peace. For Maathai, these were totally interconnected. You couldn't have peace if people were fighting over scarce resources, right? And you couldn't manage those resources well if you had a corrupt, undemocratic government calling the shots. Now, this powerful idea, it didn't just stay a theory in a book. What started as an environmental concept very quickly became a direct and really dangerous challenge to Kenya's authoritarian regime. Planting trees, it became an act of political defiance.
So let's look at that first leg of the stool, the environment. It was addressed with just breathtaking scale. Through her Green Belt movement, which she founded in '77, Maathai mobilized communities to plant over 51 million trees. Let that number sink in. This was a massive, massive effort in ecological restoration, healing the land one tiny sapling at a time.
But it was never just about planting. The movement also trained over 30,000 women, empowering them with real skills that could provide an income. By making environmental work economically beneficial, Maathai turned women from victims of scarcity into the actual guardians of a renewed landscape. So smart. But as Maathai herself said, the work was never just about the trees. This quote, it just nails it. The real threat to the government wasn't the trees themselves, but the political awareness that grew right alongside them. As people organized to manage their environment, they started asking tougher questions like, hey, who's mismanaging it from the top? And this brings us right to the second leg of the stool, good governance. The battle for Uhuru Park in 1989 was a huge turning point. The government planned to stick a massive skyscraper right in the middle of Nairobi's most beloved Central Park. Maathai saw this not just as an environmental threat, but as what it was, an act of corruption, of a government stealing public land for its own gain. Her protest was a direct shot at their power. Then, just 3 years later, the fight escalated. Maathai and other activists took over a part of that same park, they named it Freedom Corner, and they demanded the release of political prisoners. Now the link was totally explicit. The fight to protect a park was the same as the fight to protect human rights and democracy. The regime, of course, responded with violence and arrests, but by then it was too late. The fusion of environmentalism and pro-democracy activism was unbreakable. This slide just ties it all together so perfectly. Take the Uhuru Park protest. Environmental win? Yep, save the park. Governance win? Absolutely, it challenged the government. Peace win? You bet, it was a victory for nonviolent resistance. Or look at the peace trees. They restored the land, but they also forced warring communities to actually talk and work together. Every single action was designed to strengthen all three legs of the stool at the same time. It's genius. So, as you can imagine, this integrated, holistic approach eventually earned Maathai global recognition, not just as an environmentalist, but as a peacemaker. The world was finally starting to see what she had been saying for decades. And you know what? She saw victory at home, too. All those years of pressure from movements like hers, they finally led to democratic reforms. In 2002, the authoritarian regime was voted out. And get this, Wangari Maathai herself was elected to parliament. It was proof that grassroots activism could lead to real political power.
And then came the ultimate validation. In 2004, the Nobel Committee made its stunning announcement, answering that question we started with. The prize wasn't for planting trees, it was for everything those trees represented.
The committee's own words confirm it all. The prize was for her contribution to sustainable development, democracy, and peace. Do you notice the order? It's the three-legged stool. They explicitly endorsed her philosophy that you simply cannot have one without the others. This award was huge because it fundamentally broadened our whole global definition of security. It legitimized this idea of ecological peace, the understanding that real, lasting peace is just impossible in a world of depleted resources, environmental injustice, and governments that aren't accountable to their people. So, at the end of the day, what's the takeaway from all this? Well, Wangari Maathai's model offers some really powerful, transferable lessons for the complex challenges that we're all facing in the world today. Her work really teaches us three critical lessons. First, we have to integrate our approaches. You can't separate environmental policy from democracy and human rights. Second, managing resources fairly is a powerful form of conflict prevention. And third, you have to trust and empower grassroots movements, especially those led by women. They are so often the most effective agents of change. Maathai passed away in 2011, but the Green Belt movement continues its work. And really, the ultimate test of her philosophy is whether that three-legged stool she built can keep standing on its own as a model for stable, sustainable societies everywhere. So we'll leave you with this final thought, inspired by her incredible metaphor. If one woman proved that a single tree, when planted with purpose, contains the roots of democracy and peace, then what should we think when we see the depleted forests and polluted waters of our own world today? What does that really say about the true health and stability of our global community?